First contact. The vastness of space stretched out before Captain Ilara Chen as she guided her ship, the Stargazer, through the uncharted regions of the Andromeda Galaxy. The mission was simple on paper: explore, document, and return. But 6 months into their journey, Ilara knew that nothing in space was ever truly simple. "Captain, we're picking up an anomalous signal," reported Lieutenant Ravi Sharma, his dark eyes fixed on the flickering holographic display. "It's unlike anything in our database." Ilara furrowed her brow, her short black hair catching the blue glow of the ship's instruments. "Origin. Approximately 2 light-years ahead, ma'am. It's pulsing." A mix of excitement and apprehension coursed through Ilara's veins. This was why they were out here, to discover the unknown. But the unknown had teeth more often than not. "All hands, prepare for potential first contact scenario," she announced over the ship-wide comm. "This is not a drill." As the Stargazer approached the source of the signal, a planet materialized before them. It was a swirling mass of purples and greens, with rings that shimmered like opal. "Life signs?" Ilara asked, her voice steady despite the adrenaline pumping through her system. "Affirmative," replied Science Officer Dr. Yuki Tanaka. "And they're advanced. I'm detecting artificial structures on the surface and in orbit." Ilara took a deep breath. "Open a channel, all frequencies. Let's say hello." But before they could transmit their carefully crafted first contact message, a beam of shimmering energy engulfed the Stargazer. The ship's systems flickered and died, leaving them drifting helplessly in space. "Status report," Ilara barked, gripping her chair as emergency lights bathed the bridge in an eerie red glow. "We've lost all power, Captain," Ravi reported, his fingers dancing frantically over dead consoles. "Life support is on emergency backup. We're being pulled towards the planet." Ilara's mind raced. This wasn't the warm welcome they had hoped for, but it wasn't time to panic. "All hands, prepare for emergency landing procedures, and someone get me a working comm unit. If we're going down, I want to at least try talking our way out of this." As the Stargazer was dragged into the planet's atmosphere, Ilara caught glimpses of a civilization far beyond anything humanity had encountered. Towering spires of crystal and metal reached into the sky, while vehicles that seemed to defy physics zipped between them. The ship shuddered and groaned as it descended, the heat of re-entry making the hull glow. Ilara silently thanked the engineers back on Earth for overbuilding the Stargazer. It wasn't designed for planetary landings, but it just might survive this one. With a bone-jarring thud, the ship came to rest in what appeared to be a massive hangar. As the dust settled, Ilara saw figures approaching through the cracked viewscreen. They were tall, easily 7 feet, with iridescent skin that shifted colors like oil on water. Their faces were vaguely humanoid, but with large, multifaceted eyes that reminded Ilara of insects. "Well," she muttered, "they certainly don't look like little green men." The beings surrounded the ship, pointing devices that Ilara could only assume were weapons. A voice boomed through the hull, speaking in a language that sounded like a mix of clicks and musical tones. "Anyone got a universal translator working?" Ilara asked, fighting to keep the frustration out of her voice. Dr. Tanaka held up a small device. "It's processing now, Captain. Give it a moment." The alien voice spoke again, and this time, stilted English followed. "Exit your vessel. You are in violation of Zarkonian space. Resistance will result in immediate termination." Ilara exchanged glances with her crew. They had come too far to die here, on an alien world, without even learning its name. "Looks like we don't have much choice. Let's go say hi to our new friends." As the airlock cycled open, Ilara led her team out onto alien soil for the first time in human history. The air was thick and sweet, almost cloying. Gravity seemed to be slightly less than Earth normal, giving each step a floating quality. The aliens surrounded them, their weapons, if that's what they were, trained on the humans. One stepped forward, its skin shifting to a deep blue. When it spoke, Ilara realized with a start that the translation was coming directly into her mind. I am Chief Enforcer Ezexalo of the Zarkonian Protectorate. You have entered our space without authorization. Explain yourselves or face judgment. Ilara straightened her back, channeling every diplomatic training session she'd ever had. I am Captain Ilara Chen of the Earth ship Stargazer. We are on a mission of peaceful exploration. We had no knowledge of your territory and meant no offense. Zexala's multifaceted eyes seemed to shimmer as they regarded Ilara. Ignorance is no excuse for trespass. You will be detained and questioned. If your story proves true, perhaps we will show mercy. As the aliens began to herd the humans towards awaiting transport, Ilara caught sight of another figure watching from a distance. This one was different, shorter, more lithe, with skin that glowed like moonlight. Its eyes met Ilara's, and she felt a jolt of something. Recognition, curiosity. Before she could process it, the moment was gone, and she was being ushered into the alien vehicle. As the doors closed and the transport hummed to life, Ilara looked at her crew. They were scared but determined. Whatever came next, they would face it together. Well, team, she said with a wry smile, I'd say first contact was a success. Now let's see if we can turn this detention into a cultural exchange. The transport shot forward, whisking them deeper into the heart of an alien civilization. Ilara's mind raced with questions, plans, and the weight of representing all of humanity in this crucial moment. Little did she know, her arrival had set in motion events that would change not just her fate, but that of two civilizations on a collision course with destiny. The alien world. The transport glided silently through the alien cityscape, giving Ilara and her crew glimpses of a world that defied their imaginations. Towering structures of what looked like living crystal pulsed with internal light, while beings of all shapes and sizes moved about on floating platforms or through translucent tubes that crisscrossed the sky. It's beautiful, breathed Dr. Tanaka, her scientific curiosity momentarily overriding her fear. Let's hope they're as advanced in diplomacy as they are in architecture, Ilara replied, keeping her voice low. The vehicle came to a stop before an imposing edifice that seemed to be made of solidified smoke. As they were led inside, Ilara noticed the temperature drop significantly. The air took on a sharp, mentholated quality that made her eyes water. Chief Enforcer Zetzalo guided them into a circular room. The walls shimmered and shifted, displaying what Ilara realized was star charts, but of regions of space she'd never seen before. You will be processed here, Zetzalo announced, its skin rippling with patterns of blue and green. Do not attempt to resist or escape. The consequences would be unpleasant. As if on cue, sections of the floor opened up, and strange devices rose into view. They looked like a cross between medical equipment and something out of a nightmare. Whoa, wait a second, Ilara started, but before she could protest further, tendrils of energy wrapped around each of the humans, lifting them slightly off the ground. For several agonizing minutes, Ilara felt as if every cell in her body was being examined. It wasn't painful exactly, but the sensation of being so thoroughly known was deeply unsettling. When it was over, and they were gently lowered back to the floor, Zexala's eyes seemed to widen slightly. Interesting. You are more complex than we initially assumed. Perhaps there is more to learn here. Before Ilara could respond, the door slid open, revealing the figure she had glimpsed earlier. Up close, the being was even more striking. Its skin seemed to contain galaxies, shifting and swirling beneath the surface. I am Sheriff Lura, the newcomer announced, its voice melodic yet authoritative. I will be overseeing your... Stay with us. Ilara stepped forward, ignoring the warning clicks from Zexala's guards. Sheriff, we came here in peace. We're explorers, not invaders. Surely we can. Lura held up a hand, silencing her. Your intentions are irrelevant. You have arrived at a most inconvenient time. Our world is preparing for the Grand Conjunction, a time of great importance and vulnerability. The sheriff's eyes, iridescent and mesmerizing, fixed on Ilara. Until we can be certain of your true nature and purpose, you will be confined. But fear not, you will be treated as guests, not prisoners. For now." With a gesture, Lyra summoned floating orbs that surrounded each of the humans. "These will guide you to your quarters and attend to your basic needs. I suggest you rest and prepare. Tomorrow, the real questions begin." As they were led away, Elara couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to Lyra's interest than simple law enforcement. The sheriff's gaze had lingered on her in a way that sent shivers down her spine, though whether from fear or something else, she couldn't quite say. Their quarters turned out to be a large, open space with strange, undulating surfaces that seemed to respond to touch. As the crew explored their new surroundings, Elara gathered them for a quick huddle. "All right, team, let's take stock," she said, her captain's mask firmly in place despite her inner turmoil. "Ravi, what's our tech situation?" The lieutenant shook his head. "They've taken all our equipment, Captain. We're flying blind here." "Dr. Tanaka, any insights on our hosts?" The scientist's eyes gleamed with excitement despite their predicament. "Their biology is fascinating, Captain. The way their skin changes, it's not just cosmetic. I think it's a form of communication, maybe even data storage. And this grand conjunction they mentioned, it could be astronomical or biological or both. We need more information." Elara nodded, processing the information. "Agreed. Our priority now is to learn as much as we can while convincing them we're not a threat. We need to turn this detention into a cultural exchange, and fast." As if on cue, one of the walls shimmered and became transparent, revealing a view of the alien city. Night was falling, and the metropolis came alive with bioluminescent light. It was breathtaking, and a stark reminder of how far from home they truly were. "Get some rest, everyone," Elara ordered. "Tomorrow, we start the most important diplomatic mission of our lives." As her crew settled in as best they could on the strange, shifting surfaces, Elara found herself drawn to the window. The alien moons, 3 of them, each a different pastel hue, were rising over the horizon. She couldn't help but wonder what Sheriff Lyra was doing now, and what plans the enigmatic alien had for them. Just then, a flicker of movement caught her eye. In a building across the way, she saw a figure that could only be Lyra, staring right back at her. The sheriff's skin was pulsing with patterns Elara couldn't begin to decipher. Their eyes met across the divide of space and species, and Elara felt that same jolt she'd experienced earlier. As quickly as it appeared, Lyra vanished from view, leaving Elara with more questions than ever. She pressed her hand against the cool, not quite glass of the window and whispered to herself, "What are you planning, Sheriff? And why do I feel like the fate of both our worlds hangs in the balance?" With those uneasy thoughts swirling in her mind, Elara finally succumbed to exhaustion, falling into a fitful sleep filled with dreams of shimmering skin and star-filled eyes. Tomorrow would bring challenges unlike any she'd faced before, and perhaps the key to unraveling the mystery of the Zarkonian world and their own unexpected role in its future. Rising tensions. The alien sun rose, casting an otherworldly purple glow through the translucent walls of their quarters. Elara awoke with a start, momentarily disoriented by the unfamiliar surroundings. As reality set in, she quickly roused her crew. "Rise and shine, team. We've got a big day ahead of us." No sooner had they gathered their wits than the door shimmered open, revealing Sheriff Lyra flanked by 2 guards. The sheriff's skin rippled with hues of deep blue and silver, a combination Elara was beginning to associate with authority and perhaps a hint of curiosity. "I trust you rested well," Lyra said, though it didn't sound like a question. "It's time for us to talk." As they were led through winding corridors that seemed to shift and change with each step, Elara couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched from all angles. They eventually arrived at a large, circular chamber. At its center stood a holographic display of what appeared to be the local solar system. "Behold," Lyra gestured, "the Zarkonian Protectorate." The hologram zoomed in on their current location, a planet Lyra identified as Zarkon Prime. As they watched, the orbital paths of the planets began to align in a complex pattern. "The grand conjunction," Dr. Tanaka whispered, her scientific curiosity piqued. Lyra's eyes fixed on the scientist. "Indeed, a time of great power and vulnerability for our people. It is why your presence here is so concerning." Ilara stepped forward, her diplomatic training kicking in. "Sheriff, I assure you, we had no knowledge of this event. Our mission is purely exploratory." She was cut off by a sudden alarm. The hologram flickered, zooming out to show a new object entering the system, a massive asteroid on a collision course with Zarkon Prime. "Impossible," Lyra muttered, skin flashing with patterns of distress. "Our deflector shields should have." Another alarm blared, and data streams began flowing across the hologram. Ilara couldn't read the alien script, but the urgency was clear. "Sheriff," one of the guards spoke up, "the shields are failing. Systems across the planet are going offline." Lyra's composure cracked for a moment, revealing genuine fear. "This is why outsiders are forbidden during the conjunction. Our defenses are tied to the planetary alignment. We're vulnerable." Ilara's mind raced. This was their chance to prove their worth, to turn a potential disaster into an opportunity for cooperation. "Sheriff, let us help. We have experience with deep space navigation and asteroid deflection." Lyra's multifaceted eyes studied Ilara intently. "And why should we trust you? For all we know, this could be part of your plan." "With all due respect," Ilara countered, "if we wanted to destroy you, why would we be offering to help? Our fate is tied to yours now. Let us prove our intentions through actions." A tense moment passed as Lyra considered the offer. Finally, the sheriff's skin shifted to a new pattern, one Ilara hadn't seen before. "Very well, Captain Chen. But know this. If this is a trick, it will be the last one you ever play." What followed was a flurry of activity. Ilara and her crew were granted limited access to Zarkonian technology, a blend of organic computing and crystalline interfaces that pushed the boundaries of their understanding. As they worked alongside the alien scientists, Ilara couldn't help but notice the way Lyra kept watch over her specifically. There was something in the sheriff's gaze that went beyond mere suspicion. "Captain," Ravi called out, breaking her from her thoughts, "I think I've found something. The asteroid's trajectory, it's too perfect. This isn't a natural occurrence." Ilara's blood ran cold as the implications set in. "You mean?" "It's artificial," Dr. Tanaka confirmed, her voice a mix of awe and horror. "Someone, or something, sent this asteroid deliberately." The revelation sent shockwaves through the command center. Accusations flew as some Zarkonians renewed their suspicions of the humans. "Enough." Lyra's voice cut through the chaos. "Whoever is responsible, our priority now is survival. Captain Chen, what do you propose?" Ilara took a deep breath, feeling the weight of two civilizations on her shoulders. "We need to combine our technologies, your energy manipulation abilities with our targeting systems. We might be able to create a focused beam to alter the asteroid's course. And if that fails," Lyra pressed. "Then we evacuate as many as we can," Ilara replied grimly. "To our ship, if necessary." The gravity of the situation settled over the room. Lyra's skin pulsed with rapid patterns before settling into a resolute hue. "Very well. We have no choice but to trust each other now." As they began the frantic work of integrating their technologies, Ilara found herself working closely with Lyra. Despite the tension, there was an undeniable synchronicity to their efforts. "I must admit," Lyra said quietly during a rare lull, "you are not what I expected, Captain Chen." Ilara allowed herself a small smile. "Likewise, Sheriff. I think both our species have a lot to learn about each other." "Indeed," Lyra replied, a new pattern rippling across their skin. "Let us hope we have the chance to do so." As they returned to their work, the asteroid looming ever closer on the holographic display, Elara couldn't shake the feeling that this crisis was just the beginning. Someone had engineered this attack, and its timing with the grand conjunction couldn't be coincidence. Whatever mysteries lay ahead, one thing was clear: the fates of humanity and the Zarkonians were now intertwined. And as Elara caught Lyra's eye across the command center, she realized that her own fate might be more entwined with the enigmatic sheriff than she ever could have imagined. With renewed determination, Elara threw herself into the task at hand. They had a world to save, and perhaps 2 civilizations to bring together in the process. The mission begins. The command center hummed with frenetic energy as humans and Zarkonians worked side by side, racing against time. Holographic displays showed the asteroid's ominous approach, a ticking clock counting down to potential devastation. Elara wiped sweat from her brow, her mind churning with calculations and possibilities. "Ravi, how's the integration of our targeting systems coming along?" Her lieutenant's fingers danced across the alien interface. "It's like trying to teach quantum physics to a toaster, Captain, but I think we're making progress. The Zarkonian crystals are incredible. They seem to amplify and focus energy beyond anything we've ever seen." Dr. Tanaka chimed in, her eyes gleaming with scientific excitement, despite the dire circumstances. "Captain, I think I've figured out how their shields work. It's not just technology, it's tied to their biology somehow. The grand conjunction isn't just an astronomical event, it's physiological for the Zarkonians." Elara processed this information, stealing a glance at Lyra. The sheriff was engaged in rapid communication with other Zarkonians, their skin flickering with complex patterns. She caught Elara's eye and moved closer. "Your people are adaptable," Lyra said, a hint of admiration in their melodic voice. "But time grows short. We must act soon." Elara nodded grimly. "Agreed. I think we're ready for a test run of our combined deflector beam. But Sheriff, there's something I need to know." She lowered her voice. "This attack, the timing with your conjunction, it can't be a coincidence. Do you have any ideas who might be behind this?" Lyra's skin darkened, patterns swirling in what Elara was beginning to recognize as distress or concern. "There are factions among our people, some who believe we should expand beyond our system, others who think we should isolate ourselves entirely. This attack could be from either side, trying to force a decision. Or, Elara ventured, it could be from an outside force altogether. One that knows about your vulnerability during the conjunction." Before Lyra could respond, alarms blared. The asteroid had entered the outer atmosphere, its surface beginning to glow with the heat of entry. "It's now or never," Elara called out. "Everyone to your stations. Let's light his candle." The combined human-Zarkonian team sprang into action. Energy coursed through crystalline conduits, merging with the repurposed systems from the Stargazer. A low hum built to a crescendo as the massive deflector array outside the command center came to life. "Target locked," Ravi announced, his voice tense. "Zarkonian power systems at maximum," one of the alien technicians added, their skin pulsing with effort. Elara and Lyra exchanged a look. In that moment, despite their differences, they were united in purpose. Lyra gave a slight nod, and Elara took a deep breath. Fire. A beam of impossible brightness lanced out from the planet's surface, striking the asteroid dead center. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, gradually, the massive rock began to shift its course. Cheers erupted in the command center, but Elara kept her eyes fixed on the display. "It's not enough," she muttered. "We've altered its course, but it's still going to hit." Lyra's skin rippled with determination. "Then we hit it again, and again, until we drag it off course or break it apart." What followed was a grueling marathon of coordinated strikes. Each blast drained more power from the Zarkonian systems, and Elara noticed the alien crew members beginning to show signs of fatigue. Whatever connection they had to their technology, it was taking a physical toll. As they prepared for what might be their final attempt, a new alarm sounded. Dr. Tanaka's eyes widened as she interpreted the readings. Captain, Sheriff, the asteroid, it's changing. On the display, the surface of the massive rock began to shift and morph. Sections peeled away, revealing a metallic structure underneath. It's a ship, Ilara breathed, realization dawning. Or a station. This whole thing was a Trojan horse. Lyra's skin flashed with patterns Ilara had never seen before: shock, anger, and something else. Fear. Impossible. No race has technology advanced enough to disguise a ship of that size as an asteroid. Unless. The sheriff trailed off, but Ilara caught the implication. Unless it was Zarkonian technology. The factions Lyra had mentioned. Could one of them have gone this far? Before they could process this new development, the asteroid ship began to emit a signal. Strange, discordant tones filled the command center, causing the Zarkonians to writhe in apparent discomfort. "Shut it off," Ilara shouted, but it was too late. All around them, Zarkonian systems began to flicker and fail. The deflector beams sputtered and died. In the chaos, Ilara found herself next to Lyra, supporting the sheriff as they struggled to remain upright. "What's happening?" she demanded. Lyra's voice was strained, their skin pulsing erratically. "It's interfering with our connection to our technology, to each other. We're being cut off from the planetary network." As the Zarkonians reeled from this invisible attack, a new message came through, this time in clear, unmistakable English. "Attention, human vessel. You have become embroiled in a conflict that does not concern you. Withdraw now, and you may yet survive what is to come." Ilara's mind raced. Whoever was behind this knew about them, had anticipated their involvement, but why offer them a way out? She locked eyes with Lyra, seeing the pain and determination in the sheriff's multifaceted gaze. In that moment, Ilara knew she couldn't abandon these people, not just for the sake of diplomacy or exploration, but because it was the right thing to do. "Not a chance," she said, loud enough for whoever was listening to hear. "We stand with Zarkon." The voice replied, a hint of amusement in its tone. "So be it. Prepare yourselves, humans and Zarkonians. The true test is about to begin." As the message faded, the asteroid ship began its final descent. Alarms blared, systems crashed, and in the midst of it all, Ilara realized that the fate of two civilizations now rested on what they did next. She turned to her crew, to Lyra, to the Zarkonians who had become unlikely allies in this crisis. "All right, people, looks like we've got a fight on our hands. Let's show them what humanity and Zarkon can do together." As they braced for impact, Ilara couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of a much larger conflict, one that would test the limits of both their species and push the boundaries of what was possible when two worlds collided. Climax and revelation. The command center shook violently as the asteroid ship made its final approach. Debris rained from the crystalline ceiling, and the air filled with a cacophony of alarms and panicked shouts. Ilara's mind raced, assessing their dwindling options. "Ravi, what's the status of our ship?" Her lieutenant's fingers flew over the alien console. "The Stargazer's systems are coming back online, Captain. Whatever's affecting the Zarkonian tech doesn't seem to be hitting us as hard." A plan began to form in Ilara's mind. It was risky, possibly suicidal, but it might be their only chance. She turned to Lyra, who was struggling to maintain composure as the psychic assault on their people continued. "Sheriff, I have an idea, but I need you to trust me completely. Can you do that?" Lyra's multifaceted eyes fixed on Ilara, a moment of understanding passing between them. "At this point, Captain Chen, trust is all we have left. What do you propose?" Ilara outlined her plan quickly. They would use the Stargazer as a mobile deflector platform, getting close enough to the asteroid ship to disrupt whatever signal was interfering with Zarkonian systems. It was a desperate gambit, but if it worked, it might buy them the time they needed to mount a counteroffensive. As the crew scrambled to implement the plan, Dr. Tanaka approached Elara, her expression grave. "Captain, I've been analyzing the signal from the asteroid ship. There's something familiar about it. It's almost as if..." She was cut off as a new tremor rocked the building. Outside, the sky had turned an ominous red as the massive intruder breached the lower atmosphere. "No time for theories now," Dr. Elara said. "We need to move." The next few minutes were a blur of action. Elara, her crew, and a select team of Zarkonians, led by Lyra, raced to the Stargazer. As they boarded, Elara couldn't help but note the wonder in the aliens' eyes as they took in the human vessel's interior. "Strap in, everyone," Elara called out as she took the helm. "This is going to be one hell of a ride." The Stargazer rolled to life, its human technology a stark contrast to the organic crystalline hybrid of Zarkonian ships. As they lifted off, Elara could see the full scale of the crisis. The once beautiful alien city was in chaos, its spires crumbling as waves of energy pulsed from the descending asteroid ship. Approaching optimal range, Ravi announced, his voice tense. "Ready to activate the modified deflector beam on your mark, Captain." Elara's hands tightened on the controls. "Sheriff, are your people in position?" Lyra's skin rippled with determination. "As ready as we can be. If you can disrupt that signal, we'll give them a fight they won't forget." "All right then," Elara said, a grim smile on her face. "Let's crash this party. Ravi, fire." The Stargazer shuddered as it unleashed a concentrated burst of energy, augmented by Zarkonian crystals. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, with a flash that lit up the sky, a section of the asteroid ship's hull peeled away, revealing the structure beneath. "It's working," Dr. Tanaka exclaimed. "The Zarkonian systems are coming back online." But their victory was short-lived. A hatch on the alien vessel opened, and a swarm of smaller craft emerged, heading straight for them. "Evasive maneuvers," Elara shouted, throwing the Stargazer into a dive. "Lyra, now would be a good time for that counterattack." As if in answer, streaks of energy lanced up from the planet's surface, catching several of the enemy fighters. The sky lit up with explosions as the battle was joined in earnest. Amidst the chaos, a new signal cut through their communications. A face appeared on the main view screen, humanoid, but with an otherworldly quality that sent chills down Elara's spine. "Impressive," the being said, its voice the same one that had addressed them earlier. "You show more resilience than expected, but surely you must realize the futility of your resistance." Lyra stepped forward, their skin pulsing with a mixture of anger and recognition. "Zarthol, I should have known it was you behind this treachery." The being, Zarthol, smiled, revealing teeth that seemed too sharp, too numerous. "Ah, little Lyra, still playing at being the protector. You always were too naive to see the bigger picture." Elara's mind whirled. "You know this person, Sheriff." Lyra's voice was tight with emotion. "He was once our greatest scientist, until he was exiled for his extreme views on Zarkonian evolution." Zarthol's eyes gleamed with fanatical light. "Evolution? No, my dear. Ascension. The Grand Conjunction is not just an astronomical event. It's the key to unlocking our true potential. With the power it provides, we could remake ourselves, become gods." The pieces clicked into place in Elara's mind. "The mating season," she breathed. "It's tied to the conjunction, isn't it? That's why outsiders are forbidden. You're not just vulnerable, you're in a state of flux." "Perceptive, for a primitive species," Zarthol sneered. "Yes, during the conjunction, our very genetic code becomes malleable. It's how we've adapted and evolved over millennia. But the fools in power," he glared at Lyra, "refuse to see the possibilities. They cling to tradition, to stagnation." Lyra's skin flashed with patterns of disgust. "You would destroy everything we are, everything we've built, for your mad dreams of godhood." I would elevate us all, Zarthol roared. And if some must be sacrificed for the greater good, so be it. The strong will survive and become something greater. As Zarthol ranted, Ilara noticed Dr. Tanaka frantically working at a console. The scientist caught her eye and gave a subtle nod. Whatever she had discovered, it might be their ace in the hole. Ilara turned back to the screen, her mind racing to keep Zarthol talking. And where do we humans fit into your grand plan? Why offer us a chance to leave? Zarthol's expression shifted to one of curiosity. You are an intriguing anomaly. Your arrival was unexpected, but not unwelcome. Perhaps there is a place for your species in the new order, as subjects or test subjects at least. I've got a better idea, Ilara said, her voice steel. How about we show you what humans do to one-aid gods? She cut the transmission and turned to her crew. Dr. Tanaka, please tell me you've got something. The scientist's eyes gleamed with excitement. Captain, I've cracked the code of their signal. It's not just disrupting Zarkonian tech, it's trying to force a specific genetic change. If we invert it and boost it with our defector, we could disrupt their entire plan, Lyra finished, their skin pulsing with hope. Ilara nodded, a fierce grin spreading across her face. All right, people, let's rewrite some alien DNA. Ravi, get ready to broadcast on my mark. Sheriff, tell your people to brace themselves. This might get weird. As they prepared for their desperate gambit, Ilara caught Lyra's eye. In that moment, despite the chaos around them, a silent understanding passed between human and alien. Whatever happened next, they were in this together. Here goes nothing, Ilara muttered. Fire. The Stargazer unleashed its modified beam, carrying with it the hopes of two civilizations. As it struck the asteroid ship, a blinding light engulfed everything. Ilara shielded her eyes, praying that they hadn't just made the biggest mistake in human and Zarkonian history combined. When the light faded, the true nature of their actions, and the fate of both their peoples, would be revealed. Resolution and new beginnings. As the blinding light faded, an eerie silence fell over the battlefield. Ilara blinked rapidly, trying to clear the spots from her vision. The main view screen flickered back to life, revealing a scene of utter chaos. The massive asteroid ship hung motionless in the sky, its surface rippling and shifting like liquid metal. Smaller craft drifted aimlessly, their pilots seemingly incapacitated. On the ground, the once crumbling Zarkonian structures were slowly reforming, crystals growing and reshaping themselves. Status report, Ilara demanded, her voice hoarse. Ravi's fingers danced across his console. The enemy fleet is offline, Captain. As for the Zarkonians, he trailed off, looking uncertainly at Lyra. The alien sheriff stood stock still, their skin cycling through a rapid series of patterns Ilara had never seen before. Suddenly, Lyra gasped, multifaceted eyes widening. It's incredible, Lyra breathed. I can feel the entire planetary network. Every Zarkonian, every crystal, all connected. We're evolving, but not in the way Zarthol intended. Dr. Tanaka's face lit up with scientific excitement. The inverted signal must have triggered a different kind of change. Instead of forcing a predetermined evolution, it seems to have unlocked a collective consciousness. Ilara frowned. Is that safe? For your people, I mean. Lyra's skin settled into a calm, iridescent glow. It feels right, Captain. Like we've awakened something that was always meant to be. But we're still individuals, still ourselves. Just more. Before Ilara could respond, the comm system crackled to life. Zarthol's face appeared on screen, but he looked different. Gone was the maniacal gleam in his eyes, replaced by a look of wonder and confusion. What have you done? He asked, his voice lacking its former arrogance. Ilara stepped forward, chin raised. We stopped you from making a terrible mistake. Your people aren't meant to be gods, Zarthol. They're meant to be connected, to each other, to their world. Lyra joined her, their shoulders nearly touching. Can you feel it, Zarthol? The unity, the understanding. This is what the conjunction was truly meant to bring us. Zarfal's expressions cycled through a range of emotions before settling on something close to acceptance. I was wrong. So terribly wrong. I thought ascension meant power, but this is beyond anything I imagined. As the reality of their victory sank in, Ilara turned to her crew. Stand down from battle stations. Let's see if we can lend a hand with the cleanup. The next few hours were a flurry of activity. The Stargazer worked alongside Zarkomian ships to rescue stranded crew members and stabilize damaged structures. On the ground, humans and aliens worked side by side, marveling at the way the city seemed to be healing itself. As the twin suns of Zarkon Prime began to set, casting the sky in shades of purple and gold, Ilara found herself standing with Lyra atop one of the restored crystal spires. The view was breathtaking, a perfect blend of natural beauty and alien architecture. So, Ilara said, breaking the comfortable silence, what happens now? Lyra's skin shimmered with thoughtful patterns. Now we rebuild, we learn, and perhaps they turn to face Ilara. We forge new alliances. Ilara couldn't help but smile. I think Earth would be very interested in establishing diplomatic relations with the Zarkomian Protectorate. Assuming you're still interested in protecting rather than isolating. More than ever, Lyra replied. This experience has shown us the value of connection, not just among our own kind, but with other species as well. Your arrival may have been accidental, Captain Chen, but I believe it was also fortuitous. A comfortable silence fell between them as they watched the stars begin to emerge. Ilara felt a mix of emotions, pride in her crew, excitement for the future, and something else, something warm and unfamiliar when she looked at Lyra. You know, she said softly, in all the excitement, we never did get around to your mating season. I hope we didn't mess that up too badly for you. Lyra's skin flushed with a pattern Ilara hadn't seen before. Was that embarrassment? Actually, Captain, Ilara, the conjunction's effects are still ongoing. And this new connection we share, it's intensified certain aspects of our biology. Ilara felt her own cheeks grow warm as the implications sank in. Oh, she said eloquently. Well, that's interesting. Lyra's multifaceted eyes seemed to sparkle in the starlight. Indeed, perhaps if you're not opposed, we could discuss further cultural exchanges in private. A thrill ran through Ilara, equal parts excitement and trepidation. This was uncharted territory in more ways than one. But then again, wasn't that what they had come out here for? To explore, to learn, to connect. I think, Ilara said, her voice low, that sounds like an excellent idea, Sheriff. As they made their way back into the spire, Ilara couldn't help but marvel at the turns her mission had taken. They had come seeking new worlds and new civilizations, and they had found so much more. Danger, yes, but also alliance, understanding, and perhaps even something deeper. The future stretched out before them, full of possibilities. There would be challenges, of course, explaining all this to Earth, navigating the complexities of interspecies relations, dealing with the remnants of Zarfal's faction. But in this moment, watching Lyra's skin shimmer with anticipation, Ilara felt ready for anything. As the door closed behind them, Ilara sent up a silent thanks to whatever cosmic forces had brought them to this point. The universe, it seemed, still had plenty of surprises in store, and she, for one, couldn't wait to discover them all, one star, one world, one connection at a time.